So hey, when's the next time you're going to the lake? Oh, sorry.
Good evening and welcome to this working session of the Lakeville Area Schools Board of Education. For attendance purposes, we'll go around and have everybody introduce themselves. Please speak loudly and clearly for the microphone so that they can pick you up. Say your name and your role. Kim Baker, Chair.
David Anderson, Vice Chair.
Brenda Albrecht, Executive Director of Administrative Services.
Judy Kelleher, Board of Education.
Michelle Humphrey, Executive Director of Student Services.
Bill Lumgen, Executive Director of Business Services.
Terry, oh, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Nope, Brian Thompson is here.
Terry Lynn, Board of Education.
Carly Anderson, Board of Education.
Emily McDonald, Assistant Superintendent.
Awesome, thank you for that. We have just a few items on the agenda for discussion tonight because we do need to wrap up by 6 o'clock. So the first thing we're going to talk about is board committees. One of the things I want to bring up real quick is I was hoping that we could add some type of an onboarding group that would work for the board just to make sure that we have that process set in place for new members. We'll have 3 people coming on, so if anybody on the board is interested in working on that. Thank you, Carly.
Yes, I would be happy to.
Woo-hoo.
Thanks. That's
You're
awesome.
welcome.
Anybody else want to join Carly?
Oh, you're not joining me?
I'll join you.
Here, I think we should probably make a rule that if you're on the board, you're not allowed to wear other school district logos, but just saying, I don't know. I mean,
Oh.
we're part of it.
I came from
I
work.
was like, I am not.
All right.
All right.
There we
Armor
go.
all, armor all.
That's good.
Wow.
Wow, thanks, all right. Anyway, we'll start with Carly and I, and then we'll work, and if any of people want to join us, they can, but we'll get some stuff set in place for that and some meeting dates, and I'll communicate that with Kim. And then the other reason that I had this on the agenda was Brian had mentioned wanting to discuss an audit committee. Brian, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I do, so thank you for having this opportunity to discuss.
Sure.
And so with the superintendent making some announcements and for the next 10 months or so, I think there would be some value that a school board member or a select number of school board members are part of any key hires moving forward, at least through the next school year. I don't have a respective dollar number that we need to kind of be a part of. I'll throw out a number just for a reaction. So maybe anything over like $125,000 as a salary, then maybe a school board member ought to be involved in some capacity during the maybe the interview process or the interview awareness. I feel like it's so late in the game that we find out, oh, we hired somebody. It's like, okay, well, and then we have to approve it. And so there isn't a lot of dialogue around the need for the position, the intent of the position, is it a backfill of the position, and then also, is it in line with where we want to go for the next 3-10 years or so. So I think in the current dynamics that we are in today, and for the next 10 months-ish or so, that is something that I think we should consider. I'll
So
pause
I
here
have a
for thoughts.
question because, especially for Judy and Terry, we've had an audit committee in the past, correct? Like, how did that run? Like, what was the board's involvement? What did board members do? Like, what was the purpose of that committee?
Go ahead,
So
Judy.
this is different than what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's not talking about audit, he's
So
talking about
the audit-
personnel committee.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well,
personnel committee.
I'm curious to what they did.
So the audit committee just got their eyes on the audit prior to the board getting it, and it only lasted for a very short period of time because it was just having a meeting to have another meeting of the same thing, so we didn't, there was no value to it, so we disbanded quite quickly. What Brian is asking for, first of all, the hiring is Brenda's responsibility, not the superintendent's, right? So that falls like under Brenda and stuff, and I think it's highly inappropriate for board members to be involved in that. What we do as a board is governance and to oversee that. And we have high-level discussions about the strategy and the direction and the path that the district is going on. And then the superintendent and his team put it together and make sure that it's within budget, that it highly qualified people, and they have small internal educator groups that get together and interview these people. And the decision is for them to be making it, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't trust board members to be making decisions for educators and what they need. They're the ones working it day to day, we're not. And I think that would be highly dysfunctional for the whole district, and I think it would be dysfunctional for the board, for the administration, and highly inappropriate. So I would not support that at all.
And, you know, as a board member, while we are supposed to provide oversight and governance, it's hard to do that when we just get a name, a salary dollar amount, a step lane, and that is it. And so, hang on, let me finish. So when I get my agenda packets on Fridays, I see that list, and it's very reactive. Obviously, the offer's already been extended, and then I have to figure out, and I literally have to go through the list and say, okay, did this person replace the accounting manager that might have got let go 2 months ago? Like, I have no idea. I have to look and find out. And so, again, I think in the current conditions that we're in today, I don't think the board would be the one making the decision saying, hey, you need to hire this person. But there's got to be a way for us to get further line of sight versus being reactive and knowing at the back end again, how do you provide oversight and governance when you have a list and then you have to approve it on a Tuesday? So that's my concern as a board member, and that doesn't seem to me good oversight and governance.
It's because you come from a place of distrust.
Terry, did you have something to say?
Inappropriate, Judy.
No, that's where
Inappropriate,
you're coming
Judy.
from. That's where you're coming from.
Inappropriate. You can stop.
Terry, did you have something to
Really?
add?
My comment is that this is administrative. We hire one person, that's the superintendent. Whatever decisions they make, they follow the strategic plan, they have the needs. Having us involved in any kind of a hiring process, I think it's totally out of line. It's not governance. I mean, we have board members that question everything that's going on because they don't think it's right or they want to influence it in a certain way. That's not our job. Our job is to do what's best for kids through governance.
Yeah, but if we have to approve the budget and that person is not a good choice.
Is
then
not what?
Is not a good choice, then we have to pull that person.
Well,
and
how
vote
do you
them
know it's
to
not a
the-
good
We
choice? You
can't.
Well, how
can't
do we
judge
know
that.
But how do we know it's a good choice?
We have to have faith in the people that are running this district for us.
Okay.
Carly, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's ideal for us to be inserting ourselves in that way. I just think, I would just say, I think there are varying levels of trust at this point, and that is part of the problem, and that's something I've been trying to advocate for and working on, is just trust with,
Good point.
between administration and the board. And so I think that is what is causing this to come forth. I absolutely do not think this is something that should be like a routine thing.
Okay. So it seems like the general consensus is not at this time, Brian. But I also feel like you may be getting some of the information that you're seeking with the part of the discussion that's coming up. So keep thinking about things, all right?
But you didn't give your opinion, so.
Well, I'm going to go with the majority here that is saying that not at this
well,
time.
That's, okay, that's kind of a cop-out.
Not really, because
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the
I don't
day-
have enough information to say,
Okay.
yes, I think I need this. I don't understand the purpose of it. And I want to hear the information that the district's going to present to us over that organizational chart to give us that broad overview so that I just don't feel like I have enough background to say, yep, I think we need this. That's my stance. I want to learn more. I want to understand more, and then we'll see if it needs to be brought up later.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, so any other discussion on board committees? Oh, okay. We'll keep moving on here. So this should be pretty quick. We just need to check our calendars. We need to schedule our board retreat to go over our board goals and talk about our survey results. And then I also have spoken with MSBA, and they have a training available about picking a superintendent, that process. It's about a 2-hour training for the dates that they have available after 5 o'clock, because those are the times that I asked about, knowing that most of us work during the day. They have a few dates in August, September, and in October. So it'd be nice if we could get that on the calendar because those fill up pretty fast, but it also kind of depends on scheduling and what the board has available. So I'm going to grab
Could you-
my calendar too.
Are you saying we're using it as part of the retreat?
Yep.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah, because last time we split the retreat into 2 different days because we did like 4 hours here and
Right.
4 hours at another time. I think we can do like 4 hours with the things that we have to work on and then this MSBA training to kind of help get us on track for that hiring process, considering that we have a lot of people that haven't been through that. I think it'd be good to hear. It's, when I talked to them, they said it's pretty open, like they just present all the information to you, and then you, as a board, kind of decide how you want to move forward. So I think it'll give us some things to think about and
Do you
some
think
direction
that
as we
should
move
wait till
forward.
the new board is on? Board?
Well, board
Set?
meetings are open, right? So anybody can attend if they
Okay.
wanted to hear it. The other thing is, when I talked with MSBA, they recommended starting the process, at least starting to think about that as soon as we could, so that we could post maybe by November or December to stay ahead of other districts that we're looking, so that we're thinking forefront instead of past. But
When I talked to Kim, I recommended that we do it earlier and not the normal time frame because we need to be out ahead of it. Since
That's a
we
good
have the-
idea.
That's what we did with Michael, since we have the heads up. So we should just get out ahead of it a little earlier when people are starting to look instead of at the tail end. So to get something kind of in place and started by the end of this year is better than the start of the new year.
That's proactive, makes sense.
So the dates they have available, if you want to pull your calendars up so you can take a look. Sorry, I'm pulling mine up too. If you look in August, they have the 20th, the 21st, or the 28th, and that would be 5 or later as a starting time, and remember, it's about 2 hours. The 20th is a Tuesday,
August?
yeah,
No, 28th is a Wednesday.
20th.
Oh, the 20th is.
20th, the 21st, or the 28th. The 28th is a Wednesday, you're right. So are any of those 3 dates viable options?
28th works.
For
Okay.
what time?
5 or later.
28 doesn't work for me.
28th,
Okay, so Dave says the 28th doesn't work.
it doesn't work?
Doesn't work for me.
I can do the 20th.
What about the 20th or the 21st?
Well, 21st, we've got a meeting already scheduled.
All right,
That's just our committee meeting.
What?
That's just our committee meeting.
Yeah,
We could move that, right?
yeah, we could.
I'm not available either of those days.
all right, let's look in September. September, they have the 17th or the 19th.
Sorry, did the 20th not work for someone?
It didn't work for Judy.
The 17th, that is the bowling night,
It is, you're right.
but the 19th is open for me.
I'm open on the 19th.
I'm good.
I don't know.
My son's getting married, so you guys can do it without me.
The 19th won't work, okay?
Okay, that's
No,
fine.
you can do it without me. Don't worry about it.
It's fine. So there's one on,
If that's the case, then can we go back to the 28th and do it sooner?
sure.
Because Dave, you were the only one that couldn't make the 28th, right?
I can make the 20th too. I'm flying back from Fargo.
You can make the 28th?
I can make the no, I can't make the 28th. I can make
28th.
the 20th or the 27th. We have a board meeting. I can't make the 28th.
So who could make the 20th? 1, 2, I'm fine.
Of August?
3, you can't?
Of August?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so everybody but 1. And what about the 28th?
Good.
I'm fine. 28th, 28th, 28th?
I can't make the 28th of August. I told
So
you.
everybody but 1. And what about the 21st? Nobody's doing that one. I can't do the 21st.
Sure.
So we have 4 or 3 on
But
that
don't,
one.
but One person, you can't worry about it. You're
Well,
never
I'm just
gonna-
looking at how
you're
many
never
can't,
gonna
and then we're
find-
gonna
Do the
talk about
28th
it.
if you need to do the
The only other
28th.
dates that they give you, the 17th and the 19th of September?
Yep,
So where we're at here?
17th
But this week?
is
For the
December.
MSBA
What?
thing?
The 19th, everybody except Dave is available on the 19th.
August 17th is Saturday.
I am not.
She's not
I have
available.
a surgery early in
Oh,
September.
on the 19th?
No, earlier in September, I just don't know, like, it's a 4-week recovery, so
okay,
I don't know what things are gonna be like.
I get that.
So we have 2 times set?
We have, on August 20th, everybody can make it but you, is that right?
Judy.
Judy,
No, Dave.
Dave. And then on the 28th, everybody
No, I
can
can
make it
Sorry,
but Judy.
I'm sorry, I
It's
can't.
switched it.
Yeah, you said the 28th.
Yes.
Or the 20th.
The 20th, everybody can make it but
Me.
Judy. And on the 28th, everybody can make it but Dave
In August.
in August.
Cool.
But is it for the presentation to find a new superintendent?
Yeah,
Well, I won't be involved in that anyways, so.
True.
okay. So we
And
wanted,
is that gonna be
The only
both
thing
sessions or
that
just?
stinks
sorry.
about that is we have a board meeting on the 27th, and then we have that on the 28th, which is fine, but
How long is the presentation generally?
about 2
2
hours.
hours.
And that's what I was saying, the September 19th, but that's when you say you're not sure about.
Yeah, and I think it's important for you to be here because you're one of the people that hasn't been through that process.
Yeah.
I would agree.
we can do either one. The 20th or 28th is fine with me.
Open house for schools is the 28th.
Gonna do the 20th?
So,
I'm fine with the
Let's
20th.
do the 20th. The more that we know, the faster that we know, then we can plan accordingly.
What time?
We could do anything 5 or later.
7 o'clock.
No, it's too
No.
late.
I fly in, I'm home by 4. I fly in at 3.
I would say 6 o'clock. 5:30 or 6.
Sounds good.
are you doing anything with Ready, Set, Achieve? That's that night.
At night?
Oh.
It's like
6
11 to
Oh, yeah,
5.
during the day, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to try August 20th on at 5:30 or 6.
And we're going till midnight, right?
No, it's like 2 hours.
Well, no, for other stuff too.
Will there be other things that we'll be discussing, or what's the intent? I just want to make
Just to
sure.
learn more about the process.
Okay.
And then, so that'll help us make decisions about how we want to do our process moving forward, because it's the board's process, and we can kind of talk about that and how we want to do that.
Okay.
Um,
In the interim, will there also be another session where we talk about board goals, superintendent goals, stuff
Well,
like that?
that's the other date we need to schedule is the board retreat, which should be about 3 to 4 hours, so that would be an evening where we start at
Can't we just
like.
combine them and go till like 2 in the morning?
No. No. We could start at 5 and go till like 9.
Welcome, Michelle.
Yeah.
Or we can do 4 to 8, whatever.
It's only gonna get worse.
But
I didn't file.
I would rather do it earlier rather than later, so if we could do that in August or September too, that would be great. August is kind of running down, so maybe September. Thoughts on a date/time for that?
I would appreciate later in September.
Later in September. When are our board meetings? The 10th and the 24th,
10th
right?
and the 24th.
Could we do it, that's the 17th again.
What's wrong with the 17th?
That's the bowl for education,
Ah,
for the chamber thing. We don't have to do it on a Tuesday. We can also do it like Wednesday or Monday or whatever works for people. I know Mondays are usually city council meetings if you plan to attend that, but,
You may want to suggest it go a little bit sooner. I mean, generally, strategic goals are done before the
right,
start of a calendar year, or start of the fiscal year, or start of a
right.
school year.
Mhm.
And so, if we're going to do it late September, which is fine, if that's what accommodates most folks' schedule, then I think we just want to level set expectations of what can be implemented, what can be done, things that we want to change.
Can we do the 28th of August?
I agree. What's wrong with the August 28th date that we could all
Can we do
make?
28th?
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that.
I can't make August 28th, plus she said there's the open house. But you go for it. Seriously.
Can I join you?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, August 28th at, what time do you want to go from?
7?
It's
7
like
to
4
11?
hours.
No
so
way.
Can we do like,
This is 4 hours, right?
Like 3 to
The
4,
earlier
yeah.
the better.
yeah.
Generally, I think we should, it's hard to do a strategic plannings in like one session, so there may be value that, I don't mind having it maybe just a couple hours, but in the spirit of being transparent, we should probably think about, all right, what does a part 2 or a work session 2 might look like? Because I don't think it's gonna be done in 2 hours. But it could be, I could be wrong. I don't know very many school board initiatives that can be done.
Do you want to just schedule a 2-hour session and then we try to find another one later on that we schedule so that we have some
think so.
time to process?
Yes.
Does that sound?
great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's do
4
our,
hours is too long.
right, August 28th, and we'll do 6 to 8. Perfect?
6 to 8.
And then policy committee was scheduled for that night, so you need to find a different
Okay,
day.
we'll adjust that.
That's fine. And do you want to schedule the second session already so that we have it on there and it's accountability?
Sounds good.
Okay.
2 weeks later, same day.
2 weeks later is September 11th. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely gonna be out for that one. That's okay.
Another policy committee night.
I'm gonna say I'm gonna not be available on that one.
How about the 12th?
Thursday.
I can do the 12th.
For respect for Carly, would the 19th work better? Because you could tentatively maybe make that.
Sure, maybe. I have no
The
idea.
12th you probably won't be able to.
No.
I want you involved.
Yeah, so-
All right, let's do the 19th.
6 to 8?
Yep.
Do you want
Mr.
them all
Drake.
here in the Oak Room?
Mr. Drew.
That's a lot of
Okay.
meetings.
Yeah, that's fine.
Donating a kidney.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
All right.
talk Afterwards. I'll give you some orders.
So I think that takes care of those things. So let's move on, because the bulk of our discussion should be about this next item, which is the organizational chart overview, and I think that's Emily.
That is me. Thank you so much. Just trying to see if I can get it up on the screen there for you.
I got you.
Maybe I need to plug in.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Thank you.
that doesn't cut it.
Fantastic. Voila. See if I can make this a little bit bigger. All right, well, thank you so much. I had a request to just sort of provide the high-level overview of the organizational chart at the district level. A couple things to note. We still are in the process of doing some hiring. So this is not complete, it is a work in progress. We still are waiting on some updates from some individual departments that maybe have had some changes. But I'll walk you through sort of where we are today. Once this does get finalized, we usually try to make sure that all of the updates are, to the best of our ability, are completed prior to the start of the school year, and then this is, of course, is a public document. So it's generally on the website. It's not on there now because we transitioned websites and it was old and we needed to make some shifts. So what I'll do is just point out a couple of shifts that have happened over, I don't know, the past year or so, just so you have an awareness of that. I know we've talked about some of these things in individual pieces, but I'll just sort of cover them as I go through. So obviously in the organization, we have our superintendent. Our superintendent currently is responsible for oversight and supervision. And remember that the organizational chart is really mostly about supervision. It doesn't really identify necessarily specific work. It identifies titles of jobs, but it's basically how things operate in terms of supervision. So our superintendent's responsibilities right now are to supervise the executive assistant, who you know and love, Kim Elson, the executive cabinet, the principals, and any building administrators, like our administrator of alternative learning, which is oversees our pathways and Lakeville online programs. So essentially, building leaders, as well as the director of community education. So those are the people that report directly to the superintendent. In terms of the executive team, we currently, and I'll go back up in just a second, but I'll give you the overview first. Currently, we have 4 members of our executive team, including the superintendent. That makes 5. That includes the assistant superintendent position, and then 3 executive director positions. We did have a 5th executive director, which was our executive director of PR and communications. That position was transitioned to a director position just in the past couple of months. So while we work very closely with that person is now a director. So if I start then at the top,
And who does that person report to? Never mind, we'll come back to that. Never mind. Go
that person currently is also reporting to the superintendent.
Okay.
Yeah. In terms of the assistant superintendent position, there are 4 core areas that I oversee. That includes the teaching and learning department, our MTSS equity department, our technology and data services department, and early childhood, which was a shift about a year ago. We made a decision in order to best align the system pre-K-12 and really make sure that we were supporting our earliest learners. I've heard some of you talk about, you have to, while you're plugging the holes of the cheese, you have to start from the bottom up, right? So how do we provide the best experiences for our early learners so they're prepared to enter into our system? So that shift happened about a year ago. In terms of our Executive Director of Administrative Services, that is the Human Resources Department, and I'll get into a little more detail on each of those in a minute. Executive Director of Business Services, those are things like business services, facilities and plant planning, student nutrition, essentially the business side of the organization. And then we have our Executive Director of Student Services, which is both student services and supports, as well as special education, which is obviously a big part of the work that we do here. I would say in terms of the executive director, while we all have our own areas of expertise and items under our purview, we work very closely together from an organizational and strategic standpoint. And then our director of communications and public relations oversees our communication department, which currently includes 3 people, which you'll see in a minute.
Can we ask questions along this way, or what do you want me to do to wait? Because I've got 2 questions right off the
Was
bat.
communications part of the executive team before, and that was
Yes.
a change?
It was, so it wasn't, and then it was, and then it wasn't. So it was a director position.
Okay.
Then it was elevated to an executive director position, and now it's a director position again. And that's based on feedback and sort of what organizationally is really needed. But what I'll say is, we work very closely with Grace in everything that we do, so.
But isn't it also because it's a very, very small?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
What, 3 people?
Yeah, it's 3 people.
Yeah, it's an executive director, I don't know.
Much less oversight, it seems like.
Yeah, less over. Certainly they're all very, very gigantic jobs, especially when you're talking about communication. I think when you think about the day-to-day operations of the district, you want the expectations to align with the title, and so I think that was part of the conversation as we were transitioning one person out and sort of getting their feedback around the position, because our previous person had worked in under both of those titles in terms of what that position needed. So
So the two questions I have on this one, can you clarify a little bit, because if you scroll up a little bit more, the assistant superintendent, and again, I'm not in the education space, so I don't know, but I've always seen, I kind of thought the assistant superintendent is a jack of all trades, kind of like a chief of staff, and they kind of span across the various departments. So I'm just curious, like a teaching and learning executive should be in that capacity, and so. And that would free up the assistant superintendent to kind of flex where need be. So that's my first question, why the district elected to just have a assistant superintendent in that role. And then the second question is, I see technology and data department within that space. If you got teaching and learning, MTSS, early childhood, that all seems educational. Whole thing is educational, but teaching more specifically related. And so looking to learn more why technology and data really shouldn't be under maybe like business services on like foundational facilities, plants, things that enable a business to run.
Bill needs more work.
Well, whether you need more work or not, or you need some help. I mean, I think logically, I'm just wondering how a community member would be like, all right, I see the assistant superintendent, you see education, technology, education. Then I go to Bill and it's like hodgepodge of stuff, right? So
The technology.
those are my questions for you, Emily.
Technology is curriculum and
Yeah.
education.
Yeah, so let me respond to your first question around the executive director of teaching and learning position. We needed a assistant superintendent as we were becoming a bigger system. We didn't have one. It did not exist. And so what happened over time is, because we could not financially support an executive director of teaching and learning and an assistant superintendent, we opted to restructure, well, it was before I was in this position, but they opted to restructure that position to have the assistant superintendent to be able to take on those superintendent's duties and sort of be a jack of all trades, as well as cover down on the teaching and learning side. So we made some personnel shifts in that, but ideally, yes, you would want a number two to the superintendent to oversee all operations. That frees up the superintendent to be able to do the strategic work and do some other things, and then have someone specifically focused on teaching and learning. I think, Brian, this is really one of those things where I know that we've heard people say that, we have such a staff at the DO, which, that people say that all the time. The reality is that for a district our size, we're fairly lean at the district office level. And as a result, we have people, Bill, Brenda, that have taken on more duties related to that. To your second question, a number of years ago, we had technology and data services under business services. It did not work. So we strategically moved it, and it didn't, not because Bill didn't do his job. It didn't work because when you're talking about the integration and implementation of technology, you're talking about the core of teaching and learning practices. You're talking about what is it that teachers need to be able to utilize technology to high levels, to be able to have students to be able to use their technology at high levels. So we actually shifted that. The reality is there is the instructional technology piece, then there's the infrastructure piece. So the infrastructure piece, from my perspective, was a piece that I had to, it wasn't, when I started, when that was moved, wasn't maybe necessarily under my umbrella of expertise. So it was a learning journey, but we also have great people in those positions that can kind of help, because if the technology doesn't work, or it's not fast enough, or people can't get on, if you don't have the infrastructure, you can't do the teaching and learning. So it didn't make sense to say, well, Bill, you take the infrastructure and I'll take the teaching and learning piece. So that was, I think,
Well, can I also add?
Yeah.
You our technology and data department lead director is from the world of curriculum.
Yes.
And that's where she came from. So
Exactly.
we see technology more on the instructional side and the curriculum side than on the fact that it's an iPhone or an iPad or
Yeah, I think it goes back to, Brian, it goes back to like strategic core purpose, like what's the purpose of having technology? And then how do we make sure that it's aligned with everything else? Whether you're talking about family and student-facing Schoology pages or Seesaw pages to wiring to Apple TVs to, we standardize technology classrooms. What does everyone get and what does everyone have access to? So, and I will say from my perspective that it works better, although it seems out of place, it works better to have that closely connected to the teaching and learning side. Okay.
Thank you for your clarity.
Of course.
And if we could,
Yeah.
if you could, having a assistant superintendent not playing that capacity would be probably optimal.
Say that again, Brian.
Having the assistant superintendent in that role right now, leading all the teaching and learning people, having that person kind of branch out and be the number 2 for the superintendent would be the ideal, optimal balance.
It's ideal unless you're going to add an executive director.
Yeah.
Which is not super palatable, and we haven't been, resourced to be able to do that. So, yeah, so I would say, to me, working in the system, and I will say too that over time, this has not been stagnant. Like, as we have looked at the needs of the organization and the changes of the organization, we have made changes.
and the skill set of the people.
That's right. And it will still, and we still have some more coming, which is why this is kind of a draft. So, okay, so I know we only have,
No, that was helpful, at least at high level. Thank you.
yeah. So I'm gonna go just a little bit in the time we have. Again, draft. So we'll start with Department of Teaching and Learning. What you're gonna see is we have 2 directors here. We have a director of elementary and a director of secondary. They oversee all of the buildings and work very closely with the principals, and they're responsible for making sure that we are implementing all of the things that we need to be implementing, not only from a strategic standpoint, but also from a statutory requirement standpoint. What I can tell you is, the administrative assistant, you'll see 1.5 there. 0.5 of that was a cut when we did budget cuts. It was one of the things that we reduced. That's been a challenge, but we're making it work, certainly. Each director has 2 non-affiliated coordinator positions. So those are these 2 right here. The rest, from specialists down, those are all teachers. Those are all TOSA positions. So our specialists are TOSAs. They're part of the EML contract. They help support, they work most directly with teachers on implementation and support for instructional strategies and those types of things. The literacy lead, that's new. That is a statutory requirement of the READ Act. That is,
Didn't we just let someone go last year?
No.
I thought there was a reading specialist we let go.
So
We had a
Dawn's
person.
position changed because
Yeah.
of where it was allocated. They were using specific funds for that position, and that funding source we didn't have anymore, so we had to change it, correct?
Well, Dawn's position, she had a reading specialist license. She was not our district
Okay.
reading specialist. So she had a different position, and then she moved into the coordinator position, and then has had an absolutely incredible opportunity that she has taken advantage of moving forward. So when you look at, if you look at the elementary side, this is statutory. We have 2 young scholar specialists. Those 2 people are funded fully through achievement and integration. And then we have our IDSS coaches who are also teachers. They work directly with teachers on coaching and on their goals and on their teacher development and evaluation process. Those are funded through our QComp plan. So all the pieces in green there are funded through restricted dollars and are like requirements of plans that we have.
So those coaches, are those kind of like, do they kind of operate as a mentor for teachers?
They don't,
Like
I
an
mean,
instructional
they
mentor?
They do, yes. They have very specific identified tasks that they do.
Okay.
And because because they are funded through TDEQ comp, a lot of that work is very specific to their teacher development and evaluation process. So, but they do go in and meet with teachers. They have a case load essentially of teachers that they work with each year. They go in and meet with them. They help them work through that process.
Terry has a question.
Oh, yeah, Terry.
Back to the top again, just
Sure.
a little bit. What's the role of the coordinators? You have 2 coordinators in elementary and secondary.
Yeah, so the coordinators, they basically lead all of our curriculum review processes in the district. They lead, like, for example, we're doing some work around gifted right now. They work with leaders as well as, I would say they work more with leaders and teachers. Like one of them, for example, oversees all of our STEM.
Okay.
So they're working with the STEM teachers.
And they work with
on
the math program.
implementation. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's those are their roles. And then on the secondary side, our TDEQ comp lead is also a TOSA. That person supports our overall program and helps with some coordination and also does some coaching as well. So it's a kind of a split job.
So one question
Yeah.
real quick. So the early childhood is under you.
Yes.
And then, but you also oversee this elementary and secondary and all of these people. Does early childhood have a slide like this where they have additional supports or they?
Yeah, I'll get to that when I
Okay.
get to that, yep.
Okay.
Hey, so I've got a finance question, because this is, my mind is going crazy right now, because when I hear TOSA, you're telling me that they're on the EML contract.
Correct.
Meaning that we potentially, the step 20 MBA or master's degree, they're making $97,000 according to the new contract, plus benefits. So we're looking at $150,000 high level.
It's high.
Okay, 150 high, it is high, but high level. 9 of them in each category in elementary and secondary. So we're spending over potentially, which I don't know the numbers, $2 million in these 19 resources or 18 resources. Do they have to be TOSA? Is TOSA the best option that we need to have? Just curious, because I don't know.
Yeah, so they do have to, a couple things. Number one, when you are looking to, just like from an effectiveness and implementation standpoint, when you are looking to hire coaches, you're not gonna hire a third-year teacher. You want teachers that have had a lot of experience to be able to help support people like in their, so they have to, they have to have some knowledge. So you're right in that a lot of times we see them on that far end of the salary schedule because of their expertise. That's actually kind of what we want. The Q-Comp plan is a plan that's approved by the state. And so yes, they have
They
to
fund
be.
that.
So yes,
The
so they
Q-Comp will
have to
fund
be
their roles.
TOSAs and our plan is funded, it's additional restricted dollars from the state to implement the plan. So these are not general funded positions.
Yep.
They are Q-Comp funded positions. Now, there's been a couple of years where because of the quality of the people that we hired and where they are on the salary schedule and their expertise, that we have been slightly over and had to offset with the general fund, but that's not an issue anymore, from what I
So the
understand.
ones
We're
highlighted,
balanced now.
Yeah.
so the ones highlighted in green are coming from restricted dollars, Q-Comp, not coming from the general fund. But if you go further up, the ones that are highlighted in blue.
This is also funded through the Q-Comp plan.
Okay.
And then,
Is it required to use TOSA? I mean, let me rephrase that. For the non-Q-Comp, for the non-Q-Comp funded funding sources. So the one, if you go further up, you've got 3, the elementary T&L. Do they have to be on the TOSA contract?
well, the coordinators are not.
They're not. Okay,
So
they're
one
not.
of the things that we did, Brian, during the budget reduction process was those positions were shifted from TOSA to coordinator positions. For a number of reasons, they work more days. The pay is different because they're not on a salary schedule, so those types of things. But these two specialists are TOSA. Actually, everything specialist down is all TOSA. So those are all teachers on special assignment.
And then that means that they also work the teacher's contract, which
Yes.
is 182 days,
Yeah, 180
9 months
yeah,
out of the year.
186 days.
So we're paying great.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Just because of time, I'm gonna
Yep,
keep going.
keep going.
And again, I know that, I don't know if you've had opportunity to look at this on the website before, but I will say that because it's still work in progress, you'll have some time to kind of process through it a little bit more deeply. Okay, MTSS and Equity Services, as you know, we combined these departments just recently and eliminated the Director of Equity and Director of MTSS positions. That was 2 positions. We moved that to 1 position, Director of Schools and Continuous Improvement. The point of that was really to help align our work and embed our work in a different way. That person who we have just hired has 2 coordinators. We have our MTSS coordinator and our equity coordinator. Everything on this side of on the equity side of the org chart here is funded through achievement and integration. So those are restricted dollars. Those are not general fund dollars. The people over here on this side are funded through a combination of MTSS grant. What else, Bill? There's some other things, but
Well, most of it's the MTSS, grant, of course. No, that is not forever, but it's,
Yeah,
we're using it
but
for
it
now
is for
for the
now.
next 2 years. And there is some general fund dollars here.
yeah, and on our continuous improvement side, besides MTSS, our district DAC, that's a requirement. That person oversees all of our testing. So she's new to us, but she will work with our buildings on any kind of testing, whether we're talking about COGATs or we're talking about MCAs or we're talking about FastBridge or we're talking about, that's a key position. And then they have, then there's an assistant position right now that's open because Bill stole our person and she went to business services. So, all right, in terms of
Can you go back one more? I'm
Yep.
sorry. So last week, we were talking about academic advisors / counselors.
Yep.
And we're having 3 going into the high schools at each one. And I'm looking at this list and there's like 9 green school success liaisons.
Yes.
So while they're funded by a different category, which is great, are we ensuring like how do we make sure there's an overlap? Because if I need to, like, do I have to go see Kathy Nida over the counselor? Like, I just want to make sure that we.
Do you know what those are, that role is?
I don't. Like a school success liaison, isn't that like,
Yeah.
because you got now 4 deans in each high school and you got 3 counselors in every single high school. And I'm
The
gonna,
school success liaisons are for different groups of, so there's different people hired to kind of be representatives for different kinds of families and groups. So we have like an American Indian one and a Black, Somali. So like there's different.
They're culturally.
Yeah, they're cultural liaisons. We refer to them as student success liaison. They don't
But
do
they're cultural liaisons.
They don't do counseling
Okay.
work. They don't have counseling licenses. They don't.
Okay.
They don't actually do their primary role, if I could explain it briefly and quickly, is it's complex. But I would say at the root of it is their role is to help students and families navigate a system that maybe don't have experiences or don't know how to navigate a system. So like families that maybe are non-English speaking, families that maybe are new to country, they work to ensure that tier 2 layer of support for our marginalized and underserved students. So
So, I know we've got just a few minutes left, and I just want to make sure that I have a chance to kind of read it, if this is okay. Because I sent an email to you guys, and then and we want to make sure that we're aligned with what the rest of the board wants. Because if we're not going to get it, that's fine too. And so I think so I sent an email asking, what did I ask? I would like the documents beforehand, names, job titles, 1 to 2 sentences of what each role does. How this role impacts the students and how they help students, what the cost of each role is and the union designation. Is this role legally required or not? The department's annual budget, resources and non-resource costs, and the average cost of the department per student population. Is it statutorily required? And this goes back to what you were showing, like, hey, funding's coming from the A&I budget or MTSS. I think that would be helpful for me. So while there may be a few more slides to go, I would like that information, and I think that information also should be out to the public if this is gonna be out there as well, in the spirit of being transparent, but
Were you taking notes?
yeah, well, I was advised that, no, is this a board request or is this an individual request? The board has to decide if this is something that you want or that the administration should do or not. So I'll pause here, yeah, because it's like, that's what I needed, but if you guys don't need it, that's fine. And then I don't get it, so.
So I find this really helpful, just like hearing about all the different departments and what you're doing, and then also like where the funding comes through, and that's just trying, from my understanding what Bill presents to us. So I feel like it kind of brings some pieces of the puzzle together for me. And then also when I'm thinking about, we compare our academic scores to these other districts that are similar size, but I think we always miss out on comparing like what student supports we have to these districts of bigger sizes. And granted, like Wayzata and Minnetonka, like they've kind of rebounded from COVID. But when I pulled this up, because I knew we were going to talk about it, and I compared their supports to the ones that we have in place, like we're doing the same amount of work with like half the people. So I mean, I know on paper, like it looks like a lot, but it's really not when you comparatively look at those districts that are the same size as us and have the same amount of students right now, and the people that are trying to support all of the people that we have in the classroom, right? Because I mean, I keep hearing from teachers that they want more supports, and these are the things that, you know, some of the things that we're missing. So I do feel like it's key information, and I do appreciate, Emily, you taking the time to go through it. I don't know how detailed we need to get into it, but
I mean, there are some financial documents, like I know there are some school districts that have a department executive summary that says, here's how many resources we have. This is the average cost of our resources per the number of population that we have. Here's everybody in our department and how much they cost. And here's the overall mission of this particular department. So I you know, again, I don't want to get into the weeds of management, absolutely, but how can you effectively oversee and govern when you don't have this information? And so that's just my point of view.
so I think
Okay, now you can continue.
I feel like this overview is helpful, but I also feel like since she said it's like a work in progress, we'll probably need an update, and maybe talk more about it.
All right, I'm gonna go
Anybody else
fast.
have any questions? No?
Got 8 minutes.
I know.
Okay, 8 minutes.
I'm not even through my
Talk,
part
Emily.
yet.
Yeah, just got started.
Okay,
Let's get to Michelle. What is she doing?
Director of, Tracy Brovel,
We missed
Director of
her.
Technology. You can see that's a combination of both instructional technology folks as well as data systems folks. They do an incredible job to make things work, make sure they work correctly, make sure teachers have what they need, and make sure that our data is protected and our students are safe. So, there are a lot of positions in there. The greens are assigned to specific buildings. So we have infrastructure people, and then we have individual building people that are there to address issues as they arise. Finally, in terms of early childhood, as you know, we hired we just changed the title to Director of Early Learning. Same contract, just different title. It just made more sense. And she has 2 support people, and then you see we have our preschool folks, our early childhood, and our ECFE family education. While the early childhood special education is at CLEC, that is actually supervised through Michelle's
That's what I was
department.
looking for. I'm like, wait a second.
Because they have the expertise there around the SPED. But we work, Molly oversees that whole building, so we work closely together, but it's not under my purview in particular. Human resources. We have a very few people doing a lot of work for all the employees in the district. So we have benefits. We have people that work specifically with contracts for different groups in our district. I can tell you, we access those people on a day-to-day basis. We have, you can see depending on which group, we have different people that have different areas of expertise. So, and then we have teachers on call, which we continue to utilize to fill our subs during the school year. So that's all under Brenda, and then Brenda has one manager, Jeff Tickle. So.
Brenda, you need more people.
She does need more people. Those people are working constantly. And then for Bill, you can see he's got the finance arm right here with the controller. He's got facilities and plant planning, payroll, health and safety, which is really, we're talking about that particular piece and whether or not we want to look at a realignment there with our other health and safety people to
Didn't
really.
that used to be under student services?
Well, that's what we're talking about, Dave, is that right now we have a continuum of service when we're looking at safety from proactive to responsive. And what we are talking about is, do we need to bring those two pieces together? Because right now what Bill's overseeing is really the physical security pieces. And then what student services is overseeing are things like our reporting system, early intervention, threat assessment, those types of pieces. And then Bill also has student nutrition. So he works very closely with our nutrition department.
That's a lot, Bill.
Bill needs more people.
Bill's got a few,
It's all
Bill
free.
needs
It's all
a
free
few more
this year,
people
right?
too.
Yes.
And then Michelle's department, we have two positions. We have our interim director of special services, and of course, a key position in our district, really oversees all of our coordinators, and then our building coaches that are working directly with our teachers. Those behavioral coaches are teacher facing to support sort of like what's happening within a classroom, specific to special ed. So I know that probably you're thinking, well, aren't we looking at behavior people for the levy? These are specifically special ed funded, so therefore they cannot work with general education students. And quite frankly, those coaches are very busy as it is. They can't take on any more. And then this director of operations position, I just want to mention really quickly because we are just about out of time. When we combined the MTSS and equity position in teaching and learning, when we made that one position, that left an open position. So we reallocated that position to student services to help manage the significant workload in that department to create the director of operations. So that's a new position. It's not costing us any more. It's just a shift of a position out of teaching and learning into student services to really sort of manage the federal programs piece as well as the threat assessment pieces and et cetera. So that position remains open. We haven't posted for it yet because we're still in the process of sorting out. Michelle's been here 7 days, so we got to give her a little bit of time to figure out what she needs. But you can see it's pretty much nurses. It's the student support pieces, so it's special education nurses. The due process. There's this department also works with our counselors. Our counselors that are coming in, our elementary counselors that we've had. And then lastly, we have our director of communications, and right now they have, she has one coordinator, has just posted for a position, but otherwise has two specialists, and she also oversees the receptionist currently. So
yeah, we could use more in communications too.
Yeah, we're pretty lean all around.
It's our biggest thing. Like, that's the thing that we need the most help with, I think. Communications.
So that's the speed org chart.
The speed org chart. All right. So knowing that you still have some things that are in the works, we'll try to schedule this for a later work session and review. And maybe dig a little deeper, Brian. We'll see.
It's up to you guys. That's what I was looking for, but it sounds
I
like
didn't go
no
through
one
community
else wanted to.
education. That is it's a absolutely essential arm of what we do. It's a separate arm. It's separately funded. There's really no crossover. We had a little bit of crossover in terms of general fund, but pretty much this is a self-funded program.
So I'll make a
That's it.
motion. We have to be legally out by 6, so we have to be done at 5:59.
Oh, that
All right,
I'll
so
make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion adjourned even.
That clock's wrong. Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for jumping in.